The San Antonio Spurs made one of their biggest moves in franchise history when they traded Kawhi Leonard to the Toronto Raptors. Many criticised them, saying that they didn't need to include Danny Green in the trade as they were already giving up Leonard. But I don't think Toronto give up their greatest player ever unless the Spurs include Green, and the acquisition of DeMar DeRozan was a great one. I said it at the time of the trade, and I believe it even more strongly after the first few games of the season. DeRozan looks amazing under Popovich, and has come out strong in both scoring and distributing the ball well to his teammates. And Aldridge has looked absolutely revitalised after a strong season last year, and playing with a guy who looks to get him the ball and is elite in the pick and roll. This video will take a look at the changes that Popovich has made this season and how they benefit Aldridge and DeRozan, before evaluating the rest of the roster and pondering whether they can ride their injuries and make the playoffs. And let's start with the resurgence of LaMarcus Aldridge. Aldridge was undeniably the best player on the Spurs last year, as Kawhi Leonard sat out most of the year with injury, but he struggled to reach his full potential without a player who could collapse defenses and playmake with him. In their few years together, Leonard had been decent at this, but not exceptional. While Leonard is clearly the best player out of DeRozan and himself, he is a different style of player. Leonard needs a point guard who can get him the ball in good positions and allow him to go to work, scoring one-on-one or knocking down three-point shots. Kawhi can also run the pick and roll, but uses it as a way to create space for himself to score. He does pass and makes some nice dishes out of double teams, but he isn't on the level of a guy like DeMar with his passing or somebody like a Kyle Lowry. So the arrival of DeMar has been fantastic for LaMarcus. While DeRozan is still a score-first guard, you can see Popovich has been on him to keep the team involved and make the best read for the team's success. I have seen him pass more out of double teams and get the ball to the wings and corners for three. But more importantly, he's been passing out of the pick and roll even more than usual. DeMar in Toronto was closer to Kawhi. He would come off the screen in attack mode and look to shoot or attack the basket for a layup or foul. But now, as soon as he notices the big man doubling him, he's been whipping the ball to LaMarcus Aldridge. And this has been phenomenal for Aldridge in the first few games this year. He's one of the best mid-range shooters in the entire league. When he has his feet set and is wide open, it is game over. And off the pick and roll, he's been getting a lot of these looks. He also uses the space to pump fake and drive into the paint, where he has looked a lot quicker and stronger than in recent years. I think this might be more due to confidence than an athletic improvement, as Aldridge is 33, but he looks reinvigorated out there, as if the departure of Leonard and his drama and the arrival of a new style and a new star in DeMar has lifted his play and desire. The pick and roll appears to be a huge part of the Spurs' new offense, and Aldridge will predominantly be the one setting the screens. But he also began to catch the ball at the high elbow and operate there in isolation. Aldridge can take players off the dribble or simply shoot over the top of their poor outstretched arms. And due to him being such an experienced veteran, he has extreme confidence in his offensive game. I think this type of scoring will only continue and get better and better as the season goes on. Aldridge has also been executing some dribble handoffs from this area for guys like DeMar and Bryn Forbes. And over the course of just the first 3 games, he looks to be passing a little bit more than ever has in his career. And this looks to be an overall trend for the Spurs. Since 2014, they reverted back to isolation ball to match the arrival of Aldridge, the development of Kawhi, and the descent of Manu, Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan. The team began to focus more on isolation possessions rather than whizzing the ball around for the best look. This has been constantly increasing since 2015. But over the first 3 games in preseason, I've noticed the Spurs focusing on ball movement and trusting every guy on their team that little bit more, much more like 2014 than 2017. Having the gravity of 2 great guys on the court instead of 1 makes a huge difference to this, and teams have to hedge onto both of them a lot of the time from corners in order to stop them from being effective. This allows for their role players to get open and knock down threes and backdoor cuts. Players simply love playing in systems like this, and it encourages the role players to get out there and move to create space and force the defense to work. A big benefit of this is the space it creates under the basket. When a player without the ball is stationary on the perimeter, it is much easier for their defender to cheat off them and help protect the paint with an easy rotation. If these players work on continuously cutting and moving, then their defender can't cheat into the paint. They have to stay stuck to them and follow them, or they can backdoor cut or get out for an open 3. This movement limits the amount of help defense and number of bodies in the paint. For Aldridge, this makes it so much easier to score when he catches the ball on the low block or in the pick and roll. The help is slower, and he isn't immediately crowded by tall defenders and prying hands going for the steal. It also means that when his teammates and he himself miss shots, that the offensive rebounding opportunities are much easier. There aren't four bodies already there boxing out because they were cheating off their stationary man. This allows Aldridge to slip under the basket and establish good positioning. And once he has this, he is an absolute monster to try and stop from grabbing the offensive rebound. He is so strong and thick that it is almost impossible to dislodge him from his positioning. He jumps well, and his hands are just so solid. If he gets even a fingertip to the ball, it is his, and he is going straight back up and putting it in the basket for a score. This kind of play, effort, and energy is necessary and required for the Spurs to win, as outside of DeMar DeRozan, they don't have much A-level talent. But DeRozan definitely is an A-level star, and in the first few games of the regular season, he has looked fantastic for the Spurs. Every single year that DeMar has been in the league, he has gotten better and better, and has simply never stopped improving, and the same is looking true for this year. When DeMar was traded to Popovich, I thought we might see him take yet another leap and become an even better playmaker. And so far, this has been very true. In his first 3 games, he has dropped 4, 9, and then a career-high 14 assists. While this is clearly a small sample size, the fact that he's already dropped a career high is a fantastic sign that his attitude to passing has improved even further, and that the system in place is conducive to him distributing the ball. The Spurs are letting DeMar do a lot of what he did in Toronto, attack the defense and score with his mid-range jumper and amazing finishing ability. DeRozan has some of the best footwork in the entire NBA, and it allows him to absolutely torture defenders. When he catches the ball, everyone knows exactly what he wants to do with it. He's going to try and take you one-on-one or in the pick and roll and try and score. But DeMar has such a large batch of tricks, he can still catch even the best defenders out, despite them knowing exactly what he wants to do. He has a fast and long first step, and a lot of the time this is enough to get past his defender and into the paint. But he has such good body control that he can frequently take 2 large dribbles before springing back for a step-back jumper. Where DeRozan's footwork really shines, however, is in the post. He has every move and every fadeaway and uses them with great control and speed. The Spurs aren't going to post up DeMar every possession, but when he gets a switch onto a smaller guard, you can bet that they will go there and let him abuse point guards with his wide range of moves and high release. And all of this play will draw double teams from opposing defenses. And in the past, DeMar has tried to score over such double teams. But in the first 3 games, and I expect for the rest of the regular season, DeMar has been looking to pass out of them, and he's been hitting players for threes, and he's been hitting LaMarcus Aldridge for wide open layups. And like Aldridge, DeMar's game is going to benefit from playing with such a unique big man. In his entire time in Toronto as a star, DeRozan never played with anyone who is even close to Aldridge in terms of offensive production as a big man. And this is important. Pairing 2 fantastic guards such as Lowry and DeRozan is great, but they run similar plays to each other and have similar styles of basketball. There is room for the opposing big to really focus on help defense. But when you pair a great big and a great guard, you attack opposing teams from both ends of the court. It is why teams with Kobe and Shaq were successful, and why people fear the Embiid and Simmons combination. And a large part of this is due to the pick and roll. You can't run successful pick and rolls with Lowry and DeRozan possession after possession, but you can with DeMar and Aldridge. Covering that is an absolutely nightmare. You can't double DeMar because you leave Aldridge wide open, but if you don't send help, DeMar is burning his way to the rim. And the Spurs have surrounded these guys with a solid to good roster. Pau Gasol is still capable of giving 20 great minutes. Jakob Poeltl is a young and talented big to put next to Aldridge, and then you have a wider range of shooters in Patty Mills, Davis Bertans, and Bryn Forbes. But perhaps the greatest Spur move of recent history has been their signing and use of Rudy Gay as a Swiss Army knife on their team. Gay brought his career back to life in San Antonio last year after an Achilles injury, and the Spurs will be hoping he takes another jump in his second year back from it. He's an absolute veteran of the league with 13 years experience and is a capable scorer, rebounder, and passer. Gay makes the right decision on the court 95% of the time and has benefited greatly from playing under Popovich. He has the height to pass the ball into the post to Aldridge or DeRozan, as well as to be the ball handler and the screen setter in the pick and roll. This kind of versatility is fantastic for the Spurs and allows them to unlock different rotations that they might not be able to pull off without him on the roster. He can also go to the bench unit and act as a scorer for them when the stars are off the court, and the Spurs will probably do this more and more as their bench becomes their starters. Because San Antonio has been ravaged by injuries so far this season, losing DeJounte Murray and Derek White to injuries already. This has thrown a huge spanner in their works as the Spurs rely on their point guard a lot to run their system. But like any other Spurs team, Popovich has found a way forward, and it has involved getting the ball into the hands of DeRozan as well as third-year guard Bryn Forbes, who has seriously impressed in these first few games. The Spurs always find a way to keep going, and with DeRozan and Aldridge as their stars, they might find their way into the playoffs once again. With the Timberwolves imploding and the Lakers and the Thunder struggling early, who knows who will be in the playoffs come the end of the year in the Western Conference. Just don't count the Spurs, DeRozan, Aldridge, and Popovich out yet. These guys are a serious threat. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos in the future. And let me know in the comments what you think of DeMar and Aldridge.